Yeah, okay. So my real name is Calxiyn. So it's Cailyn. So like in Kingdom Hearts, they all have like the X or whatever in their name. So the L goes on the other side, and then the I goes on the other side. So it's Calxiyn. So it's just those two letters switched, and then the X in the middle.
Oh, all right.
I've had this since I was like 12. Like my first Minecraft account, like that was Calxiyn, and that was it. That was it for the rest of and it will be for the rest of my life. So here we are.
Nice. I know I'm in the middle, but I'm on the right on my screen, so I don't know. This isn't a hostile takeover of Raymond's channel.
Oh, they're saying they can't hear us. That's...
Wait, they can't hear me or you?
I don't know, they say all of you.
No sound, Ray. No sound. Can't hear Celtic.
Can't hear Celtic. Can you guys hear us now? Super chat us and let us know you hear us now. Okay, so it's Celtic. It's specifically Celtic. Okay, so... God damn it! Every time! God damn it! Okay. Okay, you know what? I'm going to put this on screen. So everyone can see the scale that I'm working with here when it comes down to operating this. Okay, and then undo. So what I'm working with here, guys, I have a dual monitor setup here. Got everything over. Oh shit! I should not show that. I knew I was gonna fuck up something. I fucked something up. All right, so I have a dual monitor setup, and when to unmute myself, I have to go all the way to this teeny tiny button right here. These buttons right here denote whether or not you can hear me on stream at any one given time, and clicking them is about as accurate as you think it is. Which means not at all. So, it's terrible. It's terrible. Okay. So, Calxiyn was explaining her name. It's the organization, and we're here to review After the Fall, the new RWBY novel by E.C. Myers, with a story written by Carrie Shawcross and Miles Luna. Kind of weird that Carrie got top billing, because typically doesn't Miles get top billing, or?
Yeah, he is. I mean, he is like the lead writer.
So I wonder if like Carrie just had more input on this book than Miles, which might go a long way towards explaining some of the more positive aspects.
Perhaps. Yeah.
If you don't know me,
maybe they also did alphabetical, like, because Carrie would be first and then Miles would be.
Oh, I mean, yes. Okay, you can think logically about it, but I'm trying to give the book the benefit of the doubt. I mean, honestly, actually, after all these years, we kept thinking that maybe Carrie's was the better writer of the two, but the more we've listened, it just seems like they're just both luck into good bits of the stories. At least that's me and Fatman's opinion. I should probably put out there, anyone who's joining us new, who's coming from Calixyn's side of the fence, me and Fatman are rather acrid critics. Well, I mean, they might not know me. They might not know me, because I try to be a more positive critic than Fatman. Fatman is the Hulk of our community. You send him in, he just wrecks everything. He throws a car across a street. I'm more of the Thanos type, where I just come in and snap my fingers and everything's the way I want it to be.
Not a bad way of explaining it.
So, yes, After the Fall, Cal read this about 3 weeks ago, before RTX, before she got, horribly stricken with a terminal illness from Arnold, for being in the rough proximity of him. And I read this over stream. Ironically, Fatman has technically not read this, but he has listened to my read-through, available now on my channel. And so he listened to it last night. So he is probably the freshest of all of us to discuss these things.
Yes.
So where should we start, guys? I know we were discussing this earlier. We don't really know where we should start. I guess overall impressions before we go into any kind of spoiler territory. Cal,
Sure.
I'll give you the floor first.
I guess, I mean, like, the plot of the book, because at first when I was reading it, I was like, oh, there are no bad guys here. That's interesting. What are they gonna do? And then obviously by the end, bad guys appear. And so that's sort of, I don't know. Like, that was the weirdest part of reading the book for me. I was like, great, but where are the evil people? And then by the end, they showed up. I mean, I guess too, like, while I was reading, I was like, this guy seems evil because he's an asshole. That was Basal, or Basilac, or whatever his name is.
Bertilac.
Yeah. Bertilac.
Which I think is a color?
Yeah, I think it's green or something.
Fatman, what about your overall impressions?
I think I would describe it as cowardly.
Ooh.
For reasons that we'll obviously get into once we start talking about specifics. But while there are undeniable positives that don't exist in, like, the show proper, I just didn't come away feeling like it was worth the digression.
Interesting. I overall came across... I thought this was a decent book. I thought it was, like, for me, it's probably a solid 6 out of 10. Which is... It's a decent read. It's a good time passer. I actually thought it did a great job at fleshing out characters. I thought it did a good job of actually setting rules for the world a little more firmly than what we had in the show. But we'll get into that shortly. Actually, we can just jump into it now. Should we start with characters, plot? Where do you guys want to start? That's the question. You have anything of, like, any particular thing that stuck out to you that you would like to cover, like, immediately?
The things that stuck out to me aren't really things that I would want to jump into first.
Okay.
You want to start out with positives?
Yeah, we'll go with some with the positives, because I think front loading positives is good before getting into the critical stuff. I thought the character exploration in here was very good. All the characters felt distinct, even though I don't think the prose reflected it quite as well. In their conversation and how they handled themselves, I thought, Coco, Fox, Velvet, and Yatsuhashi all came off across as distinct characters doing their own thing, and they all played very well off each other. They all had very good chemistry going throughout the book. The new additions to the series didn't quite do as well, I thought. Slate was probably the most interesting of the new characters to me, just because she has sort of this kind of, like, she's just no-nonsense, crass individual, just doesn't give a damn, and then just kicks ass all the way through, even though she's getting her ass kicked by just fleeing constantly. And with that, there was the new characters of Bertilac and Carmine, who were just... I liked Carmine a lot, at least in the sense, well, maybe not so much. That's more in the negatives, I think, territory. I'm not the biggest fan of the villains, but I thought overall, at least the core main characters, I thought they did a good job of exploring them and really diving into them. One thing that really stuck out to me as a big positive was delving into Yatsuhashi's backstory and exploring his semblance, which I thought was probably the most emotionally charged bit of the book, where he literally makes his mother forget about her own daughter. That is like some nightmare fuel right there, where he has to start taking care of his little sister. And through that, he actually forms a bond with her. Like it's a great little microcosm of what I think RWBY can really deliver on in its storytelling, and what kind of elements it's set up with its storytelling. Because that's not something you would really think about on the fly with an action series, but that's the sort of stuff you can dive into with it. Calix, I'll pass it off to you.
Okay. I guess, like, for the positive parts, like, I kind of feel the same way about the villains as you. Like, when they're, like, especially, you know, the guy whose name I've already forgotten.
Just call him Birdie.
Birdie. I guess that's his name now. It's okay. But yeah, like, with Carmen, it's like, okay, she's hot. Like, we saw her before the book comes out, and so I was like, but with him, it was just sort of like, well, he's an asshole, so there was no real way to sort of like him. Like, Mercury's an asshole, but some people actually like Mercury. Like, he has redeeming, I don't know, something redeeming about him. I'm a little neutral on
frankly, I don't see that personally. I
don't know. I think it's charisma. Just from, you know, like JJ and Yuri's performance for him.
Oh yeah,
I
totally.
Agree with that.
Yeah, we don't get that with the characters in the book having, like, you know, like that voice that just can carry their personalities.
They don't have any. And then I guess, like, Slate was probably, like, the best, like, personality wise out of all of them, because then like Gus and then, like, the grandpa was great. Like, I felt that.
Edward.
Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, like I live with my 90-year-old grandfather, and that's just how I imagine he would be if he was in the RWBY world. So I was like, all right, like, I can appreciate this, but then, like, at the same time, they're kind of nothing. And I don't want to, like, get into the negatives, but it's like, do they? I don't know. It's sort of like the Team Vital Festival people. It's like, are they even gonna matter? Are we ever gonna see them again? And then some of them are just sort of bland and non-important. But yeah, I think, like, exploring Coffee and then exploring even, like, Team Sun was in there a little bit, and then Team Ruby's relationship with Coffee, which we didn't really get to see in the show fully. Like, all of that was.
Hold on to that whole relationship thing, specifically the word relationship, because I want to get into there's a big pet peeve I've had with this entire book that I want to get into.
Okay.
But Fatman, your thoughts? What positives did you come out with this?
Like you said, I loved Yatsuhashi's backstory. I thought that was the strongest part of the book. I really like the idea of just exploring how, like, magic, I mean, like, you know, magic can go wrong if you don't know how to use it. And I mean, a world like RWBY is, like, kind of ripe for exploring that. They don't really in the show, but they did in this book. Like, they had a lot of things where, you know, stuff was going wrong through, like, no, like, active fault of anyone.
Oh yeah, I mean, out of control semblances were just a theme throughout the book, and I thought that was actually one of the most consistent through lines that I really saw, because Fox's semblance, which I think was really cool, at least for the way they also described it as the group team speak. That's fun idea work. Yeah, the idea they had this secret weapon, the reason they could coordinate so well, and it does actually, like, this is unintentional because I wrote Fixing RWBY Part 5 before. The reason Fox didn't go into the fight with Mercury and Emerald makes way better sense now, because if Fox had been in that fight, they wouldn't have quite gotten duped like they had. Because, like, they had that illusion stuff going on, but they could communicate with each other so they'd know where each other were.
Yeah.
So it's like Fox is actually a pretty good counter to Emerald.
Yeah. I liked Fox's personality a lot.
Fox.
Oh my god, he's so
like,
funny.
Fox was the standout. That man is like I imagined. Who was the guy who played Chirrut in the Rogue One? What was his name? Donnie Yen? Is that it? Is that Donnie Yen?
Yeah. Donnie Yen was definitely in Rogue One. I don't remember his character's name.
Yeah, the monk guy, and, like, the best line of the film was that ad-lib of his where they put the bag over his head and he just goes, "Are you kidding? I am blind." And, like, I got that vibe from Fox constantly, where he's just like, I love how he just fucks with people over that. It's great.
Yeah. I liked his and, you know, his semblance was very, very interesting. That's I mean, less of like a positive and more of like a thing that's, like, ripe for discussion.
Yeah.
That his semblance was like opening a Discord server. It's like he can read minds, but he can also talk into people's minds, and he can also have people talk into each other's minds. That's very weird.
Yes,
right?
the ultimate semblance, the web router. Do you have something?
Yeah. But more positives. I was honestly just kind of glad to see a different place, even though I didn't necessarily like what they did with it. I just thought that the change of scenery, even though we didn't like physically see it, was welcome.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like, I do like how the sand definitely kept coming up as a big thing. Even within the first chapter, like, within the first few pages, they mention specifically, I'm trying to find the line. Let me find the line that really bothered me, because I pointed this out on stream.
Was it the dusty one?
Yeah, number 2. The way sand kept getting in her mouth, even when it was covered by a pithy t-shirt. And then, like, later on, like, it said that she just took in a, like, she got hit, like, directly on the face with sand. And that would be covered by the pithy t-shirt. And sand still somehow got in her mouth. Like, just the way it was structured was weird with that. It didn't create the proper visual. I felt throughout the book, the book struggled occasionally with creating the proper visual to try and telegraph certain things, I found. But that's more in the negatives. Another positive that I had, it had a very streamlined story. Now, this is both a positive and a negative, where I thought the story was actually very simple, but they kept it simple, and because of that, it flowed very naturally. It's literally just bad things are following this community, and we follow that community as the bad things keep happening to them. And it's up to our heroes to try and figure out what's going on and then stop it. Now, where this becomes a negative is it is almost immediately apparent what the hell is going on. Like, literally within the first time, like, oh, people have been getting, like, bad feelings, like, you know, getting super angry all of a sudden. It's like, it's someone's semblance. It's someone's semblance. Whose semblance is it? Well, who was new to the group when this started happening? Well, there are these 3 travelers from Vale. It's them. It's one of them. Just cut them off the group and walk away. Now, admittedly, there was some damage control in that area where, like, they were those group was adamant to stay with the group, and you had the whole subplot with the villains. But overall, it's a good plot, but it felt like there was a lot of contrivances to make it work. Better than I can say for a lot of the show's plots, but definitely some skizzy there that I thought could have been worked on. Okay.
I feel like episode of the weekish, sort of.
It
like,
did.
You know what I mean? Like, there's 2 bad guys, figure out what happened. Like, I don't want to say, like, Scooby-Doo, but that's the only thing I can.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. Someone just did something. What did someone just do? I'm trying to find, I think someone just subscribed. I think that was it, but I don't know.
All right.
I heard the chime in my ear.
It'll show up on stream
well, it's not showing up in my alerts. That's the thing. It's weird.
It's not the top donation one.
No, it's not.
Ash Baron donated $2.
Oh, that is okay. So it did say. Okay, I was reading that wrong. Ashbarian asks, my question is, how did Team Season get from Mistral to Vacuo? Did they fly? If so, why didn't Ruby and company fly from Haven to Atlas? Now here's my question. Why did they walk? Why, in God's name, did Team Coffee walk from Vale all the way to Vacuo? You just get on a boat and take a straight shot. It is literally a straight shot. It curves.
Or like a car. Like a road trip or something. Like, mentioning that they walked that way, like, they make huge point about how dangerous the Grimm are, and it's like, wait. So these 4 can just walk unimpeded to, you know, like, across a continent. How long did it? That's like,
that was such
they could have not mentioned it. We could have assumed they like took the bus or something.
I know. Another thing that did peeve me was I guess we're going more into negatives now.
Wait, before we get into negatives, are there any like neutral things?
Yeah,
like things that like could go either way depending on how you look at it.
Most of the new characters, aside from Slate, they're sort of neutral for me. What they represent has negatives, but like them themselves are just kind of neutral. Except I do have a bit of a beef with Bertolac, because it's sort of like he got cardoned, and that pisses me off. I hate it when you cardon a character, like
what? Go into more detail about
Cardon Winchester from, he has no redeeming qualities.
Yeah.
Like,
True.
Why? Like, okay, look, there's exactly like 3 people I hate in this world, and I can even recognize I sometimes hate them just because personality schism. So they just come off as bad guys to me. Regardless, I can recognize they have redeeming qualities to them. Every human being has a redeeming quality to them, and I hate it when you characterize a character as just an unlikable asshole. Like kind of like Biff from Back to the Future. I don't even think Biff had any redeeming qualities, and I hate Biff. And it's not like it's not a good hate to feel, because it's cheap. It's absolutely cheap when you have that. Mm-hmm. Instead of making you hate this character through any kind of moral reason or through any kind of like ideological reason, or through just, hey, you're an asshole, but you feel like a real asshole. You feel like this is like some kind of like black hole of just asshole. Like it's a black hole asshole. Like you can't get away from it. Like you want to be like, well, maybe he could be a good. No, he's bad. He's an asshole. Mm-hmm. He's evil all the way through, right down the line. Not a redeeming quality in sight. And I'm just like, I can't invest myself in this character. Like all the Game of Thrones villains I have seen have redeeming qualities to them. They're charismatic, or they're charming, or they're friendly on the outside and snakes on the inside. Like, you don't get any of that. I
don't know if I would call that a redeeming quality.
But redeeming in the fact that they seem charming on the outside.
You can understand how they function in the real world.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like redeeming in the sense that they're viable. They're viable people.
That was my problem with him too, because I was just like, oh, like this guy's a dick. I guess he's the bad guy. Whereas like Carmen was like, I don't know, a little better. So I was like, well, I'm not sure about her because she seems nice for now, but we'll find out. And so it's like, it's not just like this person wouldn't exist anywhere. It's also just like, oh, okay, like he just had a giant villain flag.
Actually,
like,
while I was
so bad at me,
they had the opportunity to throw that on its head. They could have made this guy a complete asshole, made Carmine the villain, and then have him be surprised and actually fight her at the end, as opposed to tricking him.
Nice.
That would have been so nice. It's sort of like, I'm an asshole, but holy shit, I'm at least trying to do my fucking job.
Because that is actually something that I was thinking about. Like, I mean, he's a huntsman, right? Like, and I mean, according to the show, anyway, huntsmen are sort of like a rare commodity, and they're important. And
because they all died in the field somewhere.
Yeah, they all died in the field somewhere. So you kind of can't really be choosy with, like beggars can't be choosers. So this guy probably never had to be a nice person in order to, be successful or even like well-liked. Like, he could be the biggest asshole in the world, but if he's the only guy who's gonna, like, protect your village from the, the Grim Horde, then you kind of just gotta, grit your teeth and bear it. So, I think they could have done a lot more to explore that.
Same. I was gonna say, like, they didn't touch on any of that, really, it felt like. Like, think about this. Suddenly, you have competition. These 4 other huntsmen show up. You and your partner are suddenly less of a commodity. You're suddenly your value in the grand scheme of things has been reduced. So suddenly
4 other second-year students show up. Did they confirm that these guys had?
They graduated. They barely. Apparently, he barely graduated.
Yeah, that was
barely as in like not a long time ago, or barely as in his grades.
Barely as in his grade. Like I think there's a line in the book where they're talking and he's like, well, Professor Theodore had it out for me or something.
Yes,
Like,
that excuse.
To be fair, I've had teachers like that. The one where
too.
I got a C on an opinion piece because they didn't like my opinion, so I slightly tweaked it, and then I got a B because they let me redo it. But no,
opinion piece.
It was an
Wow.
opinion
Okay.
piece. Yeah, it was.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, that was the type of class. After that, I played it safe in that class.
What's going on, Ryan Carson? We are reviewing After the Fall.
Yes.
We are discussing the positives, the neutrals, and soon the negatives of this newest installment in the RWBY canon.
Well, I mean, here's a negative that just came canon. So I mean, I like, again, another positive is that a lot of the rules were set down. Admittedly, they were set down in such a way that they did contradict with previous rules established. Like, all right,
that's par for the course.
I know it's par for the course. Okay, for the biggest example to me is when Fox uses his semblance, it drains his aura. They confirmed that in this book. Right? I'm not the only one that remembers that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that whole thing with Flint in the arena, where he checks his aura before using his semblance again, like it matters, but then uses it anyway, like it doesn't matter, that comes into question a whole lot more. Semblances come into question a whole lot more. But I like that they're at least trying to set some ground rules that we can build off of. Even though a lot of them were frickin' front-loaded. Did anyone else notice how front-loaded this entire book with its lore?
Oh yeah, if this is your first experience with RWBY, you're gonna have a bad time.
It's gonna be overwhelming, because like I can't. They go through semblances, huntsman, grim, aura, specialty
did they
weapons.
really even go over it? They just kind of like drop those words on you.
They drop the words, give like a paragraph description, and then continue on. That is overwhelming to any new reader.
I think Hunter said this, but he said that he, like, this book, like, Babysitters clubbed. He used it as an adjective, like, all of the things. So instead of, like, oh, my name's Susie, like, I do this or whatever, but it was for, like, aura and semblance and whatever, like, all of that stuff, like, in the first sort of 2 chapters. It just sort of does that and drops it all on you. Like, just in case you're a new fan who picked this up by accident or something, like... Because I don't know, I feel like they were trying to help people that may have never watched RWBY before, but at the same time, I'm like, why would you pick this up for your, like, out of all of the books, I don't know why a parent would be like, all right, like, this looks okay, even though it also looks like it's part of something else, but...
Yeah.
I
mean, you can never tell, like, who's gonna experience something first.
I mean, yeah. For example, people don't know this. I've mentioned this before, but like, it's a rarity. I got into the Halo franchise through the novels, which it's a shooter franchise. It's a first-person shooter franchise. You would think I would have played a game first. No, I read the novels first, and I love the novels. It's the reason why a lot of the newer games are pissing me off, or I should say, Halo 5 has pissed me off, but for a lot of reasons. But the I'm trying to think of other good positives. I mean, I love, again, the desert being described. Wildlife. That was a big thing for me. Actual distinct wildlife, like the mole crabs and the sand turtle. Those were
the
awesome.
Sand turtle was an animal, not a grim.
Correct.
Okay.
They specifically they detailed out. In fact, I was questioning, the weirdest thing for me was the sandworm, the blind worm at the end. They kind of flipped between whether, I know it was a grim in the end, but it kind of felt like occasionally when they described it, it felt like an actual creature. Actually, something because of that fight is going to help me in Volume 4. Something very important about details in that fight. But I'm not going to get into it because it would spoil exactly what I have planned for Volume 4.
You tease.
But what else was there to describe? So the mole crabs were interesting. Like this description of different cuisines in the Vacuum Desert. Like, that stuff is right there. That's juicy lore details and how everyone had like a unique dish that they liked. Good stuff in there. Good stuff in there. So yeah, let's move on to more negative aspects. Well, I can say as a positive, I liked flashing back to Beacon and seeing different elements of Beacon from different angles, and seeing especially that one mission where they just royally botched it. I loved that. That was actually a great chapter because it didn't really relate to anything important. Great in certain ways, bad in others because there was, I think, contrivances that led to it. But I think with the overall message of it, of we fucked up royally, great. I think pretty good overall. We'll get to you. We'll get to you. But negatives.
I don't want to get too far away from that particular scene that you're talking about before I get to it.
Okay. Well, one of the biggest issues with me, Team Coffee knows everybody. They freaking know everybody in this book. Like, they know Penny, they know Team Sun, they know
Weiss's entire semblance.
It's like, what? Okay, look, I get it. Them and Team RWBY were friends in the show. And I guess you could extrapolate from there. Maybe Team Juniper, but Penny was like under constant guard. Like, RWBY barely saw her. Team Sun? Why would they hang out with Team Sun? Doesn't seem like they're kind of. It's just weird.
And
to
the
me.
randos from the tournament, like they were like, "Oh, all of our friends on Team Bronze did."
Oh yeah,
did you
like
know them?
Like, guys.
Are we allowed to spoil things in this stream? I'm like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. Okay, so when they were like our dear friend Roy, who got carried off by a Nevermore, I was just like, wait a minute. Well, first of all, I was like in the moment, because that surprised me that they just like said that he like up and fucking died. But I was just like, when did you have time to make friends with all these random people? Because like Velvet's just like, goodbye, Roy, and has this like all these feelings and like, yeah, I mean, he's dead, so that's sad. Like, it's always
like
sad
if this were following my
people
fixing
die,
series,
but I'm just like,
it might make more sense. But no, like, that's the thing though. Roy was confirmed to have been carried off by a Nevermore during the fight. Like, you can actually apparently see it in one of the scenes. Admittedly,
oh, you can? Okay, I thought that was new. And I was
let me try and look that up, actually.
Yeah, no, it's totally like in one of the scenes. But then later, I think later in that same chapter, they say that the entirety of Team Bronze
it's like
is
dead or missing. Or...
Yeah, it's like, okay. Yeah, here we go.
So I'm just like, well, that's one way to get rid of the side characters.
You can see him right there. Right there being carried off by a Nevermore in the back.
No. Oh, poor guy.
That's so sad. I guess, I don't know. Like, I'm sure people have noticed it until now, but a lot of people were acting like it was like
a gag.
My surprise came like, wait, they actually referenced that? Holy shit, that's some really cool shit.
Yeah, next thing you know, they're gonna reference the Grimm at the episode 7 dance.
But I was gonna say, like, they mentioned all this stuff, and Velvet like letting go of these memories. Like, God, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like these weren't even important in the show. How many people are gonna give a fuck about these characters? I give a fuck about them because I'm crazy. Because I'm not a sane person. I've spent a good portion of my life fixing a story that probably I should just ignore and move on to write my own thing. But so that was my biggest pet peeve, is like these relationships come out of nowhere. Like, they're just suddenly all friends. Suddenly all, and not just like, you know, friendly acquaintances. We're talking like, bro, I die for you, man. I throw myself in front of a train for you. It's like, when did this happen?
I don't know. Like, maybe, I guess, like, the only argument I could make maybe is that Velvet's, like, more sensitive, like, over emotion. Like, if it was Fox, like, he'd probably care a little bit, but he wouldn't have, like, the tearful goodbye memories thing. Like, I don't know. Maybe it just affected her more or something. Because, like, she has no friends. she basically said that, like, oh, when I was in school, I had no friends, and now I have a team, I guess, and, like, her whole backstory of how she was bullied. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe she has a weird connection to people.
By the way, freaking called it in my Fixing RWBY series. I don't know how I keep calling these things. I'm just preternatural, I guess.
Wait, what was it? Like, what part of it?
Velvet having no friends outside of her team.
Oh, okay.
Like that was a big part in my Fixing RWBY part 4, the volume 2 fixing, because people got paired up in Ublex class, and Velvet and Cardin got paired together. Because neither of them, no one liked Cardin, and no one was friends with Velvet, except for Team RWBY and such. So, yeah. You were gonna say, so let's move on to that other flashback scene that apparently you have conflicts with, Fatman.
The other flashback scene, the one where they just like drop kick the racism out of existence. by adding like other, I guess, like worse characters, where Blake fucking
I forgot about that.
Physically intervenes in those guys harassing Velvet, and then when Cardin's doing it, she's like, sucks to be her. It's like, wait, where, like, I mean, I get that they didn't mean to have the characters come off like that in like, you know, like the main show. Like, I get that like wasn't their intention, but at the same time, it's like, it's what you have, like it's what you've shown us, and like I feel like it would be a lot better if they committed to it rather than just being like, no, they're not, they're totally standing up for Velvet except when they're on camera. They have performance anxiety.
If it's like, I feel like they could have fixed that by showing, oh, this was after the Cardin stuff, so Blake like realized that she can't do that stuff anymore. Like after her talking to revealing spot, like that would have been nice. Or the opposite may have been because Cardin's in her class, like Blake had concerns about standing up to him, but then when it's sort of like these two like randos that like are just sort of there, she feels better about it.
This was back when they're shadow people, so they don't even have like it's like, oh, that guy's got a full character model, I better not fuck with him.
I would say in this book, one of the best parts about this book was the comedy. I thought that actually the comedy was very on point with a lot of things. I remember there was that flashback scene with Team Coffee discussing with Team RWBY about setting up for the dance, and just one of the best moments came out of that where it was Blake reading a book, or seemingly reading a book. Then they plucked that book away, and there was a different, like, dirtier book beneath it, like a Ninjas of Love type deal. And then they plucked that away, and she's like passed out on the table. Which will make you forget that this is in the middle of her having an existential crisis about, you know, the White Fang and Roman and all that stuff.
Yeah. Hey, you know, everybody's got to get, you know, everybody's got to find their, you know, their personal time.
Joy in life, all right? Like, we're here.
But so the flashback scene that I was actually referring to was that failure scene, Fatman, the one that you wanted to talk about.
Oh, yeah, the failure scene. I got really, like, mad about that scene, that they would even, like, have that in the because, like, Coco specifically said, oh no, it's not the failing grade we're gonna get on this mission, it's the fact that we, you know, couldn't save these people. And I'm like, wait, you can fail a mission by getting like overrun with Grim? Like you can get like, you're a student going like out on like an actual field mission, and they're going to like fail you if like, you know, you lose civilians. That's some like messed up shit right there.
So by this logic, the Maginot Line got an F. Because they just didn't take into account the Germans coming through with tanks through Belgium or wherever that. It's like that. I see your logic there. It's just sort of like when you can't prepare for every eventuality, when you can't do it in a safe environment, grading really makes no sense.
Yeah, it's like they came back alive after like I mean, you know, Velvet's talk with Blake in Volume 2, where she was like, there were just so many of them. It's like, but like they came back alive, like they went in there to help. but it was like overwhelming. They didn't like, it wasn't their fault they lost people. Like where was everyone else? Where, like, I think at like that point you'd be like, well, fuck the student thing. I'm gonna call in like any available huntsman to help, and not just like, no, you're getting graded on this. I'm gonna sit back and evaluate while you watch these people die. Like my same problem with Velvet and
Coco. A random plane, and he was like, "All right, kids, get in the car. We're going home." I guess. And I was just like,
I mean, that does paint like Ozpin and the entire faculty in a much more gray light than anything else in this show. Yeah, I don't care about these civilians dying. You get an F.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm gonna launch you into the woods. Don't die, Hazel's sister.
Oh God.
I mean, I don't think that's the thing that paints them in a grayer light than anything else.
So the grading thing is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, and like I liked that the rest of the team like barged into Ozpin's office, even though that like doesn't make sense how that's like physically possible. That
it's an elevator.
They can just get on the elevator to go up to his office. Like when like Cinder got on that elevator, she just like went down to the vault. She's like, oh
okay. My God, you pointing that out now makes a.
No safety features on this. Like no key card, no nothing. They just went.
Do you think when the students went into the elevator, they just saw like
there's a button that says maiden vault?
Yeah, it just says secret vault. Do you think anyone got like, I wonder what's down there? Just like went down there, kind of just chilled around, like, it's big. There's only this dead chick down here. I'm just bored. Leaves. What was I gonna say with that? So what I liked is that like it did traumatize the team, and I think it traumatized them in a very realistic way in that it was partially in their control, but partially out of their control how the family would react and get themselves killed. I liked that element of it. The idea of they all kind of contributed to the fuck up, although I think some of it is kind of spurious. It's more just everyone kind of feeling guilty overall, and but the thing that gets to me is when you look back on that scene in Volume 2, Velvet and the rest of her team don't seem traumatized in the slightest. Velvet's just like, oh, there were just so many of them. Wow, that is great, Velvet. Maybe say that with a little more inflection next time. No, I like when you look back on the actual acting in that scene, it doesn't match up, I think, with the feeling that was supposed to be conveyed there.
Yeah, I mean, they probably determined what exactly the conditions of the failure was, like, long after Volume 2 was written.
Yeah. So another negative for me was the plot line of the book. I mean, again, very simple. Like, the third act villain surprise was just sort of like, all right, well, these assholes, who I guess were assholes, are assholes. Great. Wonderful. Like, I had no real emotional connection in learning that these guys were villains the entire time. Doesn't really, doesn't surprise me. Doesn't take me off my feet. So that was kind of an issue. The semblance switch was the most, like, I'm glad they resolved it as quickly as they did, but they could have done it a lot faster than believing these two people at face value. Like, I don't think I would have believed them at face value over it. Because, like, all the occurrences did not line up with how they were describing things. Gerond. Judarud. Yeah, okay, you're right. Well, no, it's like saying you get a failing. The Maginot Line gets a failing grade because Belgium didn't fucking have its defenses ready. So the semblance mix-up was kind of a contrived plot point, and the fights themselves. I thought the very last section of the book was incredibly rushed. Am I the only one that felt that way?
The last section of the book was
the fight with the worm, and like it just so happens. I mean, I know they're saying, oh, the negative of feelings where the fight with Bertolac was happening was what draws the worm to it, but That was weird because like you still had an entire population while they're still coming out of it, still recovering from one of those emotion bombs. You would think the worm would still be attracted to them.
I guess, like, Hunter and I theorized about this a little, but it is a middle grade book. And, like, when I was trying to get my book published, I had to do all this, like, research for it. And so, like, he's not a new author. He's written other books, but because, I don't know, they may have gave him a word count limit. It was just, like, this is your maximum. You can't go over this. Just because, like, if it's your first book, usually they don't want to take that big of a chance on you, and it's cheaper to do less words until your second one. So I guess when the second one comes out, that would be a better judge of, oh, the first one was obviously cut down because they didn't want to.
Is E.C. Myers also writing that one?
Yeah.
He is, and that's going to be a Team Sun book. Is that right?
It's a sequel, so I think Coffee and Sun are gonna both be in it together.
Oh. Didn't they imply that Scarlet and Sage were dead in this book?
So I was wondering about that too, because like that was a rumor from like last December or the December before, from like 2 years ago or something, that it was rumored that Sage and Scarlet were dead. And then in the Coffee book, they don't say anything, and it doesn't seem like they're there because they're like, oh, Sun and Neptune, like how nice to see you and all that stuff. And then in the book description, it says new teams are formed at Vacuo School and all of that stuff. So I'm just like, y'all could have said whether they were dead right now. So yeah, I was wondering about that, and some people are like, well, they said it's about Team Sun, and that means all of them, and I'm just like, okay, I guess.
Yeah, that's another thing that griped me about the whole not just the flashback, but that's the overall timeline of things. They said that they had only made it halfway through their second year at Beacon, but
wait,
yes,
they did.
How? That's the thing that really galled me, because I remember distinctly from a lot of the commentaries talking about the gap between volumes 2 and 3 is that the school year ended and then the volume began at the Vital Festival. Like there's like 2 weeks of a gap.
They should have been third year.
They should be third years, not second years.
They should be going into their third year. Because tournament is at the end of
the
year.
They said they only made it halfway through their second year. Like, even if you made it 3/4 of your way through your second year, you'd probably still say you've made it through your second year, roughly. Like,
did they get expelled for their failing grade at the mission they failed?
And they just hung around for the Vital Festival tournament?
Maybe it's because, like, there was no, like, they have to redo that semester again.
But they'd have
to redo the second half of their second year.
Miles and Carrie said they finished the year. They finished the semester. Like,
I don't know.
I genuinely wonder whether or not Miles and Carrie got confused between semesters and quarters.
And also, because
I don't know what to tell.
Because Ozpin has this whole speech with them in that scene where they like failed, and he was like, "You guys, you're like late getting back from your mission. You've missed a lot of homework. If you don't get caught up, you'll have to like sit out of the Vital Festival." But they didn't sit out of the Vital Festival, so that means they must have like caught up on all their missed assignments. So like, how did that? I don't recall that line.
Oh god, I wish I had another
PDF.
Version, a
that you
PDF,
could just like Control F through.
Yeah. But I remember very distinctly them saying that. I'm beginning to think that the R in RWBY stands for retcon. Yeah.
It does.
So you see a whole family die. You failed the whole year.
Does that mean though? Like, okay, so does that mean that Team RWBY was going into second year too?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the thing that like should have been like the big thing.
They shouldn't have done that. They should have just made the Vital Festival and ended the year like.
Well, no, I was fine with it. It's just like they completely contradict themselves right in the book. They should have just like. Because I think they wanted the timelines to line up with Sun and Neptune getting to Vacuo. But, like, you guys, you already had them walking across a continent for the better part of a year. Like, what more time do you need? Like, we already have...
Mistral anyway, or at least Sun was, and then he collected his team, and then he walked, or
Well, here's the
Probably
thing.
not took a boat.
It took them
Wait.
6 to 8 months to get to
Hold on.
Mistral.
Sun was there?
What?
What?
Sun was in
Vacuo.
Sun
At
was
the end
in
of the book.
Vacuo.
At the end of the book, Sun was in Vacuo.
Yeah.
Even though he was in Mistral at the beginning of Volume 6.
Yeah, so it was Mistral with them and Neptune, and then they were like, all right, we're going to go back to my home turf. And so now they went over there, but I wonder how long it took.
Yeah, it's like
When was Deku? I think it's actually this that we're discussing right now.
What's the most
When-
stupid thing in
when
the book?
did-
Yeah, this.
When did Sun go to Menagerie? How did he get on the same boat as Blake? I mean, I'm assuming Blake left from like some port near Vale, and Sun is like somehow in Shade in Mistral for this story. When did he go to Menagerie?
Like, he followed Blake, and then he followed Blake back to Mistral, and then after he collected his team in Mistral, then they went to Vacuo.
And,
This
you
should
know,
be, like,
knowing
during
this-
Volume 7, this book is happening.
This book is happening during Volume 7.
Yes, I guess so, right?
It has
I
to
guess
be.
it would
It
kind
has
of
to
have
be.
to.
Yeah.
But like, let me guess. They walked all the way there.
Oh my god.
Ugh.
I just, I'm like, my
They took
brain
the
is,
train, I guess.
my brain is
They were at the
exploding.
train station.
That is going to be like when I do my fix scene for anything post Volume 4. The hardest thing to figure out is the goddamn timeline. Like the minute that character is
It's also weird because Oscar took the train from wherever he was to
Yeah.
the city. And so I guess Team Sun will take the train to somewhere and then get to Vacuo.
via boat. I mean, I guess it
From
is a
there.
shorter distance than we're giving it credence for because Mistral is, Vacuo is just to the east of Mistral. So I mean, because maps
What?
loop maps
Or
loop
I
around.
get, on a
I guess if it's
Oh,
a
so you're
globe,
one of
right?
those globe heads
Yeah.
who believes in a round Earth. Unsubscribe.
I'm a glober. I'm a glober, guys. Or believer. But so like the way that works, still like 6 to 8 months. 6 to 8 months. Why is it that everything ultimately comes back to 6 to 8 months?
It also implied that they stayed at Beacon for a long time fighting
Oh
off
yeah,
hordes.
they stayed a couple of weeks at the minimum. It's like
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing that I liked. I thought that part of the book was really funny when he was describing like this is what a class schedule of a normal
Oh, I
second year
love
student
that was
is.
great, and then the rest of
Yeah.
that chapter I thought was terrible. like that was like one of those things where like everything just like because it was not like anything consistent. It was like the writing in that chapter just fell apart. I don't know exactly what happened in that chapter. Let me try and find it.
All the ands and all the saids. Like that guy needs like a dead word.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, we were talking about that too with Hunter, and like again, Hunter sort of theorized that because it's supposed to be a middle grade book,
Mm-hmm.
that like I don't know, kids are confused and can't like, because like in young adult books they usually don't do that. Like they'll just drop the said because you're supposed to like understand who's talking and like
Yeah.
what sequence. But with the middle grade, I guess they didn't have enough confidence in the 8-year-olds that they imagined would be reading this, but clearly like we're all.
Yeah. Which grades are middle grade?
Middle grade's supposed to be 8 to 12, and then young adult's supposed to be like 13 to 18, I think.
Mm.
I write like typically I write between 16 to like 22. That's my target demographic typically.
It's
though-
so weird to call a genre young adult because it's not really a genre. It's like a target audience.
It is,
So
yeah.
what's defined as young adult will like constantly be changing as like cultural taste changes. So it's
But
been, like,
horse books never go out of style.
horse books never obviously.
I guess it's just like what agents will be looking for. Like they want like a young adult book, like 13 to 12, fantasy or like whatever, like
Mhm.
or 13 to 18, like all those things. I guess it is just for marketing, but at the same time, it's just like I was reading all those sets and I was just like, oh, I guess I'm back in middle school. That's alright.
Well, even for like middle school standards, it feels really patronizing. Like that was my biggest issue with the prose.
I'm stupid and can't tell who's talking, but it's okay. I guess.
Well, I mean,
was
like
one of the lines like said in a demanding way, and then you were like, no,
say
just
demanded.
say demanded.
Just say demanded. There's like it goes back to the fucking was it the Poet Society? What's that movie called?
Dead Poet Society.
Dead Poet Society.
With Robin Williams.
With Robin Williams, where he's like, don't say very mad, say infuriated. Don't say whatchamacallit, don't say very sad, say depressed. Like use the English language is so much more versatile. Use it. If people don't understand a word, a Google search isn't too far away. A dictionary can always be on hand. I want to see the world learn.
You should clip that and make that your channel, your channel banner. I want to see the world learn.
Oh Lord, because then another person actually commented out that like you're not supposed to use those words because it does like when you have like character demanded, character said, said loudly or character shouted. When you use the unique words, it does bring more attention to that, but it also brings more flavor to it. So even if it brought more attention to the fact that you were adding these descriptor tags, it still colors the character in a certain way. Deku Momia asked, "What's the worst and best thing about this book?" Best thing about this book, characterizes the main characters exquisitely. I loved all the characters. I thought they were really fun. They all had really good chemistry. Worst thing about this book, same thing with everything else. Inconsistencies galore. I don't know about you guys. Best and worst thing about the book?
I agree with everything you said. Coco was gay, so that was fun. That's a pro.
Should we?
Velvet and Yasuhashi is nice too. I feel like we should talk about that eventually.
He's a gentle soul.
I guess the worst part was like just some stuff was inconsistent, and then also definitely the rushing near the end. But like aside from that, it was just sort of the villains, especially just because I was just like, oh no, like.
Yeah, when you have 11th hour villains, it doesn't work out the best.
Mm-hmm. I would say the best thing, probably just Fox being a sassy bitch. And the worst thing, the worst thing is one of the last things that happened in the book. It's when they're all celebrating job well done, and I forget who says it, but somebody's like, I've just been thinking about whoever hired Carmen and Bertolac, and then somebody else, I forget. I wish I remembered who the characters.
Coco and Velvet talking.
Coco, we won. We won the battle, like, but not the war. Coco said
they were arrested, just like that Torchwick guy, and whoever hired him never did anything bad ever. It's like, what were you? What?
Where were you?
That's like some RWBY 13 shit. Like, oh, we dropped a building on Sharkface 6 years ago and he never came back. Why would he come back after we dropped a building on him right now? It's like some like, wait, what are you guys talking about? Like, you're right. You need to worry about whoever hired Carmen and Bertolac.
I guess they don't know, but at the same time, we all know, and so it's just like
you don't know yet.
No. They all knew who Cinderfall was.
But not
remember?
Salem is what I meant.
Do they?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Do they? Like, that is one of the most inconsistency. We don't know what knowledge the general public has about the fall of Beacon.
Yeah.
Like,
they know, like Cinder and Hazel and all that, like, they're all on the TV screen, like, for their arrest and all that, like, which volume was it? Like, there's a picture of Cinder, a picture of Emerald and Mercury, and they're all on the television with Adam, I think. They're all like, these people are dangerous. Or something like that.
It's frustrating things. But if you want to...
Oh, yeah, there was that picture of them, like, in, volume 6. Mistral? There was that picture of them in Mistral after Cinder stole the clothes.
Oh, yeah.
That lady.
I forgot
But
they had one.
then there's no tower, so they can't like share that information around. But
yeah.
I mean, Fox and Yatsuhashi did know who Cinder Fall was. They referenced her by name.
So there's that going on. So one thing I wanted to touch on at the very least is the representation in the book, because I think that's very interesting. That I actually think it was done really well here, because like it's not in your face. It's literally just whenever Coco's point of view happens, she makes remark about the attractiveness of some of the girls around her.
That girl's hot.
Yeah, that girl's hot. Like I was genuinely worried because I remember there was an excerpt that came out earlier that like implied that Velvet
People
like.
thought that Velvet was stalking her and had a crush on it, like something like that. Not stalking, but
not stalking, but like was crushing hard on Coco and like was like, oh my god, she noticed me. But I don't remember that happening in the actual text of the book. It changed the scene, I think.
And I know people were mad about that, but I think that it's because like it was taken out of context, and I think the context was more Velvet is bullied at Pharos and has no friends and like all that stuff, whereas Coco is cool and she has friends. Like it was more like that sort of thing, and then when they become teammates later, like it makes more sense. Like it was I'm jealous of her because she's popular and she fights good, and I suck at. Like that's what she was thinking. More than it being a romantic thing.
Although it does kind of feel skeezy, they released that particular.
Yeah, I think it was like I don't think it was leaked, but I guess it was.
It was a promo. I think it was a promo release.
Yeah, it was like a thing on Goodreads or something. Like had sample chapters.
I don't know.
It's like when they released the clip from the food fight. Where
I hated that.
Cradling Weiss.
I was so pissed. So pissed. I am a rabid White Rose fan. And I'm just sitting there like yes, they're actually they're a web serial. They're not constrained by any of these weird social norms. You can do whatever you want with it. They can have these characters.
Back then. Oh boy.
What? I had so much hope in my heart. I had so much hope in my heart. I was so naive. So naive back then. And then betrayed. Even though it was a really cute scene in retrospect, it's just still like goddamn. Like that was such a bait and switch, man. Such a bait and switch. Pissed me right the hell off.
I was more worried about Fox just because people have theorized that he was actually blind, and if he wasn't actually blind, that would be kind of weird and we'd all be surprised, but it's sort of like, I like how they made him make the jokes, but the blind jokes weren't at his expense. They were more of him finding humor in it, which I think was better. Like, nobody laughed at him, but he was more laughing at other people that were uncomfortable. Like, when he was talking to Weiss, Weiss was just like, what are you staring at? And he's like, nothing, because I'm... and, it was more, the humor in that isn't that he's blind. It's about him saying that to Weiss, and then Weiss getting flustered and sort of regretting everything that she's ever done in her existence and walking away. And so I thought that was nice. I wasn't worried too much about Coco, but I was like, all right, how many Fox's blind jokes are we gonna get? And they were all right. Yeah,
they were actually, I thought, they took the approach that they had with Toph. And I thought that was actually a very smart route to take. And they gave him a very distinct way of actually sussing people out. You know, Toph had her tremor sense going on, but really, his idea of using his mind to just kind of feel out other people's minds. And I saw the donation, Berian, I'll get to that in just a minute. Using his mind to suss other people out and feel their auras. That was a very interesting thing, that he was able to sense auras in specific. They distinguished that from him sensing minds, because he had actually trained himself to sense auras. And I think it's a very kind of DBZ thing they did there. Ash Berian says, I have a sinking feeling that the next book is going to end with Coffee and Sun. I keep saying season because that's a better name. Are going to get a distress signal from the desert from RWBY and co. just for convenience that won't be followed up until we get to Vacuo in the show proper. I don't feel that way. I get the feeling that they really kind of want to take this as a spin-off series. They want to take it in its own direction. And I get the feeling that the villains here are not going to be related to the Salem stuff. Yeah,
I agree. Other than, so basically the theory that was... I'm going to say going around the theory that I made, because nobody else. It was they're all based off of the Knights of the Round Table or something. Carmen's supposed to be, I don't know, the red one, and then he's the one. And like they're all supposed to be these knights or something. And, like while I was looking up the color names, like their names were like King Arthur characters that they had taken or something like that. And so I'm assuming that it's just like the other books are going to be the other knights, and then it's going to be.
I'm sure.
Salem, unless Salem's like at the top of the chain, but we're never gonna see.
I'm sure all those
interact with them.
All those Arthurian scholars are happy to know that the red one is getting his due recognition.
I can't remember any of their names. I think that is how they were on the wiki. They were just like, oh, the Green Knight in the King Arthur legend, and I was just like, okay.
Perfect. Beautiful.
I can't wait till we get to the Black Knight. Oh, come back here, you namsies! I'll bite your legs off!
Yeah, there was a blue... Yeah, there's a blue one, a black one, the red one, and then the green.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I would actually kind of prefer that if there was, like, another faction besides Salem.
Same.
Like
the idea is that, like, that's one of the biggest pet peeves with a lot of shows for me is that, like, evil is pervasive. The idea of
they better not be all for wanting this.
Yeah.
Why would he be collecting people with powerful semblances? It better not be all for one.
Oh God!
Unless it's like literally all. It's actually like a My Hero Academia crossover. Like, that's the only way I'll accept it.
Deku shows up, becomes the main character of the show. The show just gets even better. I mean, honestly, with all the crossovers, they have a crossover with Smite now. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a crossover with My Hero Academia at this rate.
Yeah, when they announced that crossover in Smite, I thought it was like the actual gods, and not like the RWBY characters.
I mean, that would be really cool. That would actually be really cool.
That would be cool if like the actual like gods from RWBY were in Smite, but it's apparently just the RWBY characters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like that's not what Smite is.
Like they're nowhere near on.
If it's the skins, like they didn't really clarify what's gonna be in the game yet.
It could be skins.
Some of the gods RWBY themed materials, like I don't know.
It could be skins in that. So let's see. Is there anything else really to cover? I mean, the prose was again, middle school grade. The plot was bare bones, which it really, when you look at it, it's literally just one chase through a desert, periodically cut up with flashbacks to kind of round things out a little bit thematically. Though I didn't find the theming very strong in this book. There wasn't really a very strong through line other than semblances being wackio.
I think they all had their own little thing though. Like Fox's whole thing with being blind, and then like he was trying to make a mud hut with his parents, and then they wouldn't let him. And at the end, he makes this like nice little sand castle beacon with Sun and Neptune. Like it seems like
I didn't connect that.
But the book doesn't have something that's
it's like the character.
Like they all have their own little like Coco was like this. Here was her backstory. Now she's like that. Well, with Coco, I think that was the one, but with Fox, I think it was the strongest, and Yasuhashi too.
Yasuhashi and Foxes were the strongest.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they introduce Coco's claustrophobia like a page before she got swallowed by the worm?
Yeah, I had a problem with that just because I was like,
no, because they introduced that.
All had everything else.
They introduced that in the. They introduced her claustrophobia a page before she had to go into a cave.
Yeah.
No, was it.
Into the cave, not the.
And then the worm. I thought that was a much more diegetic take on it.
Yes, Smite is a video game.
Yes, it is.
It's a MOBA where you play as like Greek gods or like gods of like all sorts of different pantheons.
Egyptian gods, like fun stuff. Except not fun because I hate MOBAs. Another point off for me. I've raised this several times. I hate the cover of this book. I mean,
yeah.
I like how shiny it is.
In the reflection of the glasses.
I love how shiny it is. They actually did a really good job with the gloss design on it. Although, like, it's weird in like some parts. There's like just little matte bits where I think it didn't quite gloss over correctly. But dear God, this is a bland pose. drawn poorly with a stock photo in the reflection of her glasses. Like this is one of the laziest things. I bet they went up to a concept artist and were just like, okay, can you just draw Team Coffee in a pose for me? What kind of pose? Any pose.
And it's the volume 1 stock photos too.
Yeah, it's like.
I really like the idea of having the reflection, but when I realized it was the stock photos, I was like, all right, guys.
And then the best part to me is they had the volume 4 outfit, which she never appears in the book. Why do you have this on the back?
That was my favorite.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. Whoever had the art design for this book, you're fired. I don't have the power to do that, but you're fired.
Because it's like, I don't blame Miles or Carrie or the writer for that, because like you seldom get to choose like the cover art for your own book, or like the artist that does it. But I'm like, Scholastic, really? Like, this is the best. Like, this is the best.
Wait, this is Scholastic?
Yeah,
Scholastic.
Scholastic.
Motherfucker, I didn't realize that. Wow. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, I would have had way different expectations going into this had I noticed that.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I did and I just kind of glossed over it. Oh god.
I feel like there's so many talented RWBY artists in the community that they could have just asked to do the art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, totally.
I'm sure there are
Get
going to be like better
Dishwasher.
fan co-
Get Dishwasher
already.
to do it.
Yeah, or anyone else, just because I don't know, it's not well drawn to me, but at the same time, I get that they were trying to make it look, I guess, a little kiddish, just because of the type.
It's like,
type
but
of
the
book
thing
it
is, it tells you
I don't like
nothing.
how it's drawn.
Can we go look at the first Harry Potter cover? The first Harry Potter cover wasn't great, but it still conveyed everything about the book. There's a boy riding a broom, chasing a golden little ball thing. Like it tells you everything you need to know right out the gate. It's about a boy and magic and adventure. Like, this tells me there are people holding weapons and a camera and some glasses and they're like looking at us. And, like, they're not drawn very well. Blade Charge said, didn't Monty say that semblances don't do stuff to other people's souls or something like that? There is no semblance that can nullify other people's seem balance.
Did he?
I don't know. I
don't recall.
I'm
I've
not up
never
on the
heard
Monty
that
quotes.
before.
And at this point, we are so divested from what Monty's vision was. And it's not, I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm just saying he's not been involved for 4 years.
It's just sort of true at this point. Like,
Yeah, things have just changed as time goes on, and that's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just a thing.
Like, as much as I would have probably wanted to, like, if I were a writer on the show during Monty's time and stayed on, as much as I would have wanted to stick with his vision, at some point I would have had to deviate just for necessity's sake. So
especially because, like, he never wrote or fleshed out the Maiden idea.
Yeah. He said that he wanted the Maiden idea and then just never did anything with it. So it's like, it's up to the writers to make of what he left behind. And that's why whenever I hear people being like, using that really garbage argument of, you're ruining Monty's vision, you're going... Guys, it's a collaborative effort. They wrote the story with Monty. As much as I really don't like how Miles and Carrie handle things, I still think the only thing you can say that they maybe is with choreography and fights, because that's what Monty shined at. That is what Monty was excellent at. That is the only way you could ever say anything along the lines of Monty is rolling in his grave. And even then, you have to be careful because they have way different assets than they did back then.
Even though, like, the second best fight happened in Volume 4. Like,
yeah. Although there was a guy that argued that the Maiden fight in Volume 5 was good, even though it was a clear ripoff of a Final Fantasy fight. Yeah.
Plug your ears, Harbinger.
Yeah, plug your ears, Harbinger.
I think that it's also like, in some ways, Monty didn't know what his vision was yet, and that's not or anything. It's just like, that's okay. Like, he was in the middle. He was literally in the middle of writing it. He wasn't done yet, and so with some stuff like Neo, he had the idea but didn't have the chance
Yeah.
to flesh it out.
Yeah, that was one of the things
That's
that
why
actually.
I'm like, it's weird that people think that Monty had like every intricate thing planned out, and now they're ruining his vision when no writer does.
Well,
It's revised it 10 times anyway.
It's one of the biggest things. I posted this on Twitter just like, last night when I was reading some of the comments on fixing RWBY on the Reddits, and people were complaining like, "Oh, this guy, he's like all the other rewriters that he's working from hindsight," and I'm like, "Motherfuckers,
Yeah.
hindsight for a writer is just called editing. It's editing. You write your base bone script, and then you edit. Then you edit again. Then you edit again, and you make sure everything is consistent all the way through. Monty did not have that benefit because he passed away while he was working on this project. Miles and Carrie do not get the same lenience. And they are the ones that are carrying this story forward. So when I say that the editing should have been better with the writing, it's always in deference to poor old Monty who didn't get the chance to finish his work. I don't think it would have been because I don't think honestly Monty was the best editor of his own work. But I don't think it would have actually been better necessarily, but I don't want to say that it wouldn't have been.
Also, Monty is just like almost inherently like a wing and a prayer, seat of his pants kind of guy when it comes to like telling the story. Anyway, he's admitted multiple times that he's a firm believer in the rule of cool. It's like, oh, yeah, well, okay.
If the show had just stuck to the rule of cool and not tried to get too deep into anything, I would have probably been way more cool with what was going on. Just kind of like the big character emotions and bullet points would have worked. Honestly, if we had just gotten Volume 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, Part 5, instead of Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4, Volume 5, I would have been way more happy with things.
Oh, sure.
Where it's just like, just random little vignettes covering different points in this universe. No one had to cover anything seriously.
Yeah.
So we've deviated quite drastically.
Yeah, let's get back on. Let's get back on.
Let's talk
back on track.
So overall, I think I'm going to give my kind of final thoughts wrapping this up. I don't know if you have anything else to cover. Anyone else?
I had one more thing I wanted to ask you guys, just because it's like, okay, like obviously Hunter and I have all these shipping videos and sort of all that, but it's like, when you guys were reading, did you see like the Velvet and Yasuhashi thing
yes.
they were doing? Okay.
And it pissed me off. I am a firm holy bun shipper. I ship Cardin and Velvet. Cardin and Velvet, I know, because I envision a better world where Cardin is a better written character, damn it. I envision a world where Cardin has some redemptive qualities, and I love me some redemptive romance stories. I love redemption and romance. But like
I know people are mad that Velvet's I don't know if she's gonna get with Coco or not, like, but all that stuff, but it's like Yasuhashi said her ears were pretty, and like he's just such a nice big
yeah, he's a big lovable dude.
Cinnamon roll, like he's just so nice, and I'm just like, don't break his poor heart. And like I don't know, like her putting her hand on his face and like all of that stuff, I was just like, nah, there's something going on there. You guys can't lie to me.
The thing is, like, what I'm hoping for, what it kind of translates to, is that it's more of a big brother little sister dynamic. The idea that they're just very tender towards each other.
But Raymond, it's an anime.
Shut up, fat man.
I want anybody to take the stream and like edit like old like sitcom credits over that. Just like put like a blur over it, and then like have like the credits start to roll up where the audience like laugh track comes in.
Oh Lord. Ashberian donated $1 saying, I'm still waiting for the day when the writers remember that Yang should regard Summer Rose as her mom, not Raven, who hasn't given her a second thought. A guy can dream. That's fair.
I suppose. I don't know. Like I had headcanons about Team Stark since Volume 3. And
was it the headcanon that RWBY is actually the daughter of Summer Rose and Raven?
No. I like that one.
There's a fanfic I'm reading right now that is so bizarre, but it manages to fix so much about Volume 2. Where, okay, it gets Team RWBY in a polyamorous relationship. Although RWBY and Yang are just they're siblings. They're not. It's not like that.
They're making everybody else really uncomfortable.
Yeah, no. RWBY and Yang have like a sibling bond, but like because they actually like mate people through a mating process, it actually fixes so much of the series through introducing these crazy elements, and then it starts throwing even weirder stuff at you, like, oh, RWBY is actually the daughter of Raven and Summer, and Yang is only really the daughter of Tai Yang, and it's like,
what, only the daughter of Tai Yang?
Oh, sorry,
wait a second.
Is the only daughter of Tai Yang.
He's just like a female Komodo dragon, you know. He just fertilizes his own eggs.
What? Komodo dragons do that?
Yeah, I think Komodo dragons and iguanas do that.
Ew.
They could reproduce asexual if they are mounted by another female.
Oh wow.
I think you can look it up.
Quote him on that. Everyone quote him on that.
Yes. Just go ahead and quote me on that. But like Komodo dragons and iguanas can reproduce asexually if they're mounted on another female. Fatman 2020. That's my official candidacy. I'm running for president. Even though I'm not old enough yet.
Oh god.
That quote has aged me like 8 years, so I can run for president.
This stream went in some weird directions.
Okay, back to cowardly, because I never got to that.
Yes. Okay.
A lot of the things they introduced felt like shifting the buck, because they've already said that they are going back on their unique semblance. They answered that question in the RTX panel, but I feel like this book was really there, like going hard on that, because like multiple times they like reference like semblances that are supposedly the same as concept that we should get used to, because while Yatsuhashi is fighting with Carmen, right, and he's talking about her telekinesis semblance, and he like specifically references Glinda while he's fighting her.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like they've already brought that up. It's like when they see that Bertolak can control like weather or temperature, then when they see Carmen with the tornado around her, then he says, "Oh, it's probably something similar to Bertolak's." They do a lot of that. And I think they're doing a lot of that so that they can introduce these semblances, like, you know, making people upset, making people angry, or you know, canceling out semblances in the show proper, like as like ideas that we should be used to. They take Slate said something while the mood bomb was going on. And she said, "Oh, who said it's not affecting me? It's not making us more negative. It's just making us, you know, what we are. You know, it's enhancing whatever emotions we're feeling."
Which I thought was a good idea.
Which really, again, pissed me off, because people shouldn't be feeling that way. I know it's like, this is like a long gone argument, like that like, you know, the actual culture of Remnant wouldn't have developed like that. Like it wouldn't just be like regular Earth except with monsters if they actually were enough of a threat to, you know, merit this sort of response from like, you know, like huntsmen and whatnot. But why would the people, especially the nomadic tribes, like why would they have that kind of anger inside them that could be like taken advantage of? Like I always loved toying with the idea that the people who live in Vacuo didn't have walls because they were just chill all the time.
Yeah, they were the hippies.
I think I know what you mean now. Yeah.
Like they sort of implied that in the world of Remnant about Vacuo back before Volume 4 happened. I think that was before Volume 4 happened.
I feel like I'm going to have to do a fix scene after the fall, and I don't want to do that.
They had they kind of explained that it's like, oh no, these guys, they were like, living at like the Oasis, and it was like paradise, and they were chill and laid back, and then they just got invaded but one day by Atlas and Mistral, and it's just like, well, okay. But nowadays it's just like, no, everyone's like secretly angry all the time. It's just like, wouldn't that still attract Grimm though? Like, can you just can you just like be dishonest with yourself? Can you fake it till you make it and the Grimm won't be able to tell?
That's an interesting question.
I guess they meant like it just made it worse, and so if someone was like a little peeved, they became very angry. But like, I still sort of wonder about that, just because it's like, oh well, it just enhances all emotion, not just like the bad stuff. But nobody's 100% happy all the time, I don't think. And so like Slate had the positivity to like protect the people and all that stuff, and that just got enhanced to make her, I guess, more feverishly like protective. But it's like, I'm sure she has like complaints. I'm sure she's not entirely 100% like that's the only emotion that she feels.
Yeah, the way
she feel both at the same time. Like, wow, this is shitty, but I still have to protect that. Like,
the way I read Slate is that she's just someone that wears her entire emotions on her sleeve. So when she was upset with you, she just made it known immediately. It's like it's less that she was. I guess the argument was that like this boils bottled up emotions more than anything else, and so because she didn't have anything bottled up, it didn't come through. Maybe that's the nature of the emotion bomb, is that it's more of more that affects emotions that you keep being locked away. But even then, it feels inconsistent because you can have a lot of different emotions locked away. For example, if I were in love with someone,
nobody started fucking when the mood bomb went off.
Yeah.
Nobody was repressing any sort of sexual desire at that moment.
Yeah.
It's like, also like earlier, like Velvet starts laughing and then she laughs uncontrollably, and so that would sort of imply that it's more of an amplifier, because like she already thought that something was funny and then she just goes to hysterical. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like that was the other.
I mean, maybe we're not giving it the credence of the versatility of semblances. Because we're trying to say, okay, it can do one thing, but we've already seen semblances that do multiple things, like foxes. Foxes, which can, it can sense minds, it can connect to minds, it can send messages, and it can become a Wi-Fi router. So, like,
I feel like that's the other thing that they're trying to fix too, is like semblance aren't just one.
Yeah, which makes it, it actually helps with that whole unique thing that they're still trying to like tentatively stick to a little bit, because they're like. They basically did exactly what I instructed them to do with my fixing lore video, where I was like, all right, semblances are kind of twofold. You have an effect, and then you have a visible or like sort of a tell that it has sort of a non-affecting paradigm to it, like Ruby's rose petals, Yang's fire, that sort of thing. I always come back to that. Those are kind of like non-effective parts of the semblance. They don't really, they can do little things, but they're not like the big full force behind it. They're sort of like tacked on. Ashburian donated $1 saying, Tai Yang had one goal when he attended Beacon. Bang his entire team. He's 2/3 of the way there. That's his semblance, extreme charm, and sex appeal. Sex drive, sorry.
I think that would be funny if that was actually.
That would be, okay,
like,
no.
I guess unrelated, but I thought that would be great, like if somebody just, they're charismatic. That's the whole thing. People
no, actually, that's actually horrifying. Like in the implications of that. That is literally that is the date.
And rule out this, and then you're
think about this. Think about this in the most grim, dark context you can think. It's the date rape semblance.
Yeah.
Like that's horrifying.
What happens when you amplify that semblance with John? Like, if
oh my god!
That would just be a feedback loop. That would just cause the singularity right there. It's like that would just implode the universe.
Oh Lord, oh God! It just reminds me of the time that I was commissioned to write this really sketchy, like I made when I did my commission work, I had no bounds. Like unless it was like borderline like even borderline illegal shit. Like if you paid me enough, there was this one guy that had a semblance had astral projection semblance, and so he used it like he could physically interact with things. And I of course tried to give it like a modicum of tact, where like I actually went into how that worked in his dynamic in his team, how he would use it to like nights before fights, actually use it to like be a ghost to keep the opponent team up all night so they'd be groggy during the fight. But like he of course used it for all these pervy things of basically sexing up all these different girls across Beacon. And I was so thankful that the fucker gave me an out, because like I would have probably demanded an out otherwise, of having the guy get his comeuppance at the end. Because if he hadn't gotten comeuppance at the end, because he gets the shit kicked out of him. Actually, holy shit! I predicted Fox's ability.
What?
Because Fox was able to see the poltergeist, quote unquote, because he could detect the aura. And I wrote this back during like volume 4. Holy shit! Unless that was something that someone else had either theorized or they had confirmed years ago. I don't know. Because I distinctly, that was part of the story. No one go check. It's a terrible story. Don't read it. It's garbage.
So basically, Fox could see the dude in the...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and actually that was like a key part of the book. Or, sorry, not book, but the story. Was where Fox just turned, looked directly at him, and started like calling out to his teams, guys, there's someone in the room with us. Oh
That's
god.
A little scary.
Yeah. I mean, it's scary for everyone involved. Like scary, you can just turn and, oh my god, there's a ghost in here. And then for the guy astral projecting, oh shit, someone can see me.
Someone can see me. Yeah. That's the kind of thing that you would not really expect.
Oh god. If my semblance is clairvoyance, it fucking sucks, man. It's clairvoyant about stupid shit.
Yeah, you can only predict pervy nonsense.
Yeah, I can only predict pervy nonsense. Like if I could get clairvoyance as to like I don't know, lottery numbers, I'd be happy with that. Oh god. So is there anything else we want to really cover about the book? I think we kind of run dry on topics.
We're okay.
All right. So overall, I give this about a 6 out of 10. It's enjoyable. It's simple. It's nothing super complex or deep. It has a few good dark moments in there, kind of overshadowed by the weird grading system. I'm not going to get into that. But overall, I had an all right time with this, and I'm eager to see what they can do with the setup now, even though it does conflict with a lot of weird stuff that goes on, but that's par for the course with RWBY. What about you guys? Final thoughts?
You want to go?
Sure. I guess, like, for me, I would give it, like, I guess a generous, like, 8 out of 10, but it's like, for me, I haven't been able to read for fun, like, for, like, an entire school semester, and so anything that wasn't, like, terrible was a relief. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I had to read The Shining for the summer course that I'm taking, and I think, like, Tom and I, like, got into it a little bit because he was insulted that I hated the book. And it's like, for the past year when I've had to read anything, it's been something, like, for school, and so it was nice to I had a good time because it didn't make me miserable, so that's what I'm basing it on.
I guess it's not. Yeah, I'm not a fair comparison because right now I'm reading the Saga of Tanya the Evil books, and those are exquisite. Those are just I highly recommend them because like they have such a weird way of going about prose and point of view. It's great. It's a real trip of a ride. So Fatman, your thoughts?
And right now I'm reading for my patrons, which I still need to make videos for. Hooray! I think if they're starting a series, like they've already confirmed a second book, I think they did a better job than Volume 1, honestly. I was honestly just happy that they told a story, like that they actually had that they actually had like, you know, like that narrative structure to like fit everything in instead of just, you know, like winging it with like volume 1.
To
appreciate
quote
that.
to quote that one review from Castle of Lies, things do indeed happen.
Yes.
Oh god, we have to talk about that at the very end.
Yeah, we'll get to that in shortly.
Yes, Castle of Lies. I was happy that things did indeed happen. There were some things that were also cool. Like it has moments, but overall, like as like a continuation of RWBY, it's part of RWBY. It's like laden with retcons, so you need to like accept that. But as like the opening to like RWBY or like a new chapter, they did an alright job. Like, at least I understand who the characters are, like what they do, why they're doing it. They straight up like describe Coco's motivation as like, I want to get my huntsman license. I don't care about actually doing the job. I'm gonna leave this like protecting the people of Vale so that I can go and get my license. That was kind of like a weird moment, but at least it's like a decision she committed to that I appreciate.
Yeah.
I feel like these characters, like written by E.C. Myers anyway, have like a stronger baseline than like the original RWBY girls after volume 1. Maybe not necessarily like after volume 4.
Yeah. I was gonna say, where would you rank this if you were to rank this as a volume unto itself? Where would you put it? Because I personally, I put it roughly on volume 4's stance.
So like, the way I would rank the volumes is 4, 6, 1, 3, 2, 5. But there's a really big gap in between 4 and 6. So saying that I would put this book in between 4 and 6 is like, there's a lot of space there.
Well, I was gonna say, like, we went over this about how you ranked 4 and 6, and we had disagreement over it. Because you forget that what happened in 4, they had the Blake arc.
Yes, they did, but it
Volume
had
6 didn't.
It's true, Volume 6 didn't, but Volume 6 had the entire second half.
I mean, the second half wasn't terrible.
Volume 6 had everything after they showed up in Vegas. Like, let's like, the Blake arc didn't affect the parts of the main story that I liked, which were Yang being emotional and Weiss being angry and Ren being scared. Like, those 3 things, no other volume of RWBY has.
Well, yeah.
So I'm like okay with having like 3 out of 4 of the main segments being awesome than I am with having like half of the story and then just off a cliff.
Because I didn't think the end of Volume 6 was as bad. Like, especially coming off Volume 5.
I did, but it's not because of Bumblebee. That's not my problem with. Don't call me homophobic on Twitter.
Yeah, that's an unrelated pile of worms.
That's completely different. My problems with Volume 6 are much more structural and narrative based. But yeah, like I would put it like in between 4 and 6.
Okay.
Like, I mean, maybe directly in between 4 and 6. Maybe just split the difference between 4.
It's not a bad way to rate it.
Still, like, pretty good, not great.
Okay.
Not that,
right.
Like, yeah, it's up there.
It is a story.
But at the same time, it takes all, like, it comes with it all of the, like, yes, this is RWBY. You have to accept a lot of things in order to even get into it.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps up our discussion about the book. Let us now move on to Kiersey Burkhart, who we were going to have our Cal with us when me and Tom went through. And we didn't want to have Fatman on because we wanted to have a little more of a distance from the critical community, even though Tom is...
Even though you were reading reviews.
Well, that's the
No,
thing. We wanted a more neutral standpoint. We were hoping to have Cal on to give us kind of a nicer balance of opinions on it, even though it does sound like we actually wound up being more in agreement than I thought we would.
Yeah, I'm just, oh boy, like, I guess...
You are the shit and piss on the poop garden!
When you guys, like, tagged me in the tweet, or somebody tagged me in the tweet, I was just like, okay, whatever, they're just being, I don't want to say being themselves, but obviously you guys are more critical.
No,
so
you can
like,
say being assholes, it's fine. We're assholes.
It's probably not as big of a deal as I would think that it is. Or, like, you know, someone like Arnold may think it to be. Like, that was just sort of my mindset. Like, oh, it's probably more, I don't want to say over-exaggerated, but you guys know what I mean. And so then I actually read them, and I was just like, oh, no. And, like, I know some people thought that I was overreacting, too, but I feel like, what are you supposed to do? Like, this new writer that nobody's ever heard of gets put on the project, and the only thing that you have from her are books that you're probably not going to buy if you don't want to support the stuff that was said in the reviews. And so it's just like, what else am I supposed to do? Because a couple people were like, well, she hasn't done anything, she's with 4 other people, like, Cal, you gotta relax. But I was just like, this is all that we have, like, the actual books, but then the reviews of the books, if I don't want to buy the books because they may be questionable inside of the books. And so it's sort of like, that's all we got. I'm just working with what we have.
Well, and then the people trying to bring up the defense of, well, she has like 4 really good books, and then like she has 1 okay book, and then Castle of Lies. And I point out, okay,
I didn't understand that because Castle of Lies is the closest to RWBY out of all of those books.
Well, like, not only that, but the 4 books that were really good.
All these other people and like the fantasy aspect. So I was like,
the 4 books that were really good were co-authored. She had a co-author on it. So it's like, we don't know, and I looked at the co-author, and she is generally across the board better rated. So it's like, we don't know how much of those books were Kiersey Burkhart's work. For all we know, she just gave like some input at some points, or this lady was an editor that helped her clean up a lot of things. And then Honor Code had that whole rape discussion that was really squicky, because it was.
I read that.
And it sounded like it was a better, because it put up the idea of, someone thankfully spoiled it so we didn't have to read the book, but the idea was that the main character who was bringing the charges forward against the guy wasn't actually raped the guy. She actually escaped her sexual harassment, but her friend was raped by the guy, and she was basically speaking on behalf of her friend, saying that I got it. And like, that actually, I think, is an interesting story, but by the sounds of it, she didn't carry it very well. It sounded like, because she tried to pull it off as a twist instead of pulling it off as a dynamic.
That seems, I don't want to say cheap, but it's like, if you're trying to be like, oh, surprise, she wasn't actually raped. Like, that's just a weird sentence. Like, to say it itself. Like, that doesn't seem right.
God.
So
that's bad.
It is bad. So with that going on, it's like if you were to like explore that as a dynamic, like from the maybe like the first third of the book, you establish, okay, I escaped the rape, but my friend didn't, but maybe I can take that onto myself and use it as a weapon against this guy, and then explore all the moral gray area that goes into taking on someone else's trauma. Like, that would be an interesting story to go through. But then, like, if you're in the last third of the book and you're like, oh no, I wasn't actually, what the hell have you been lying to us as the audience? Like lying to the audience is a very careful thing to do as a writer. Mm-hmm. And then you have Castle of Lies, which,
you know, the thing is, like, if you framed it as a revenge story, it would have probably gone over way better than if you framed it as like, I'm trying to like bring him to justice through basically lying to everyone. Because it's oh, why'd you do that? That's bad. But then it's like, if you
do like a Death Note thing, like he's just like, well, I think that I can clean up the world and all that, and I'm gonna do it for questionable means, and then just
like an I spit on your grave kind of scenario, except it was a different, like, like the friend of, Jennifer Hills instead of like her herself.
Especially,
I feel like everybody would have been okay with like that kind of a story.
I feel like, especially in this political climate that we have, we need books that actually take these things from a more mature angle than just trying to be like, plot twist. You can't just throw a plot twist in there for the sake of a plot twist.
It's not delicate, and it's even like the concern about Castle of Lies, I guess, for a lot of people was the LGBT part of the movie.
Oh God, yeah.
Like, oh, this girl was presented to be asexual, but
asexual or demisexual,
she
like
feels better and she's fixed, and I was just like,
yeah,
no, because like my biggest concern is, I guess, a couple things. Like, people pointed out that first, like, she had that she was like queer in her bio, and then that magically disappeared because her whole bio on her website or something just got totally overhauled and rewritten, and I was like, well, that's interesting. The other thing is, like, if that's what Miles and Carrie have her as a consultant for, it's just like, I don't want them to think that they have to listen to her just because she's or whatever she is, if that makes sense, because it seems evident from the Castle of Lies book that she doesn't know, like, you know what I mean? That
yeah.
certain topics justice, right? And so it's one of those things where I'm like, Miles and Carrie and Eddie may actually know better in some regards, but they may be told not to listen to that, if that makes sense. Because if she's basically like their gay consultant, it may be like, oh, well, we should listen to her because she's a member of the community, and that's why, like, you know what I mean? Like, I would hate for them to do that when maybe they have a better instinct of what to do.
Now,
that's what I would personally
my question is,
about.
How did they come across her? That is the question that I have, because they didn't say anything in the RTX panel along those lines, did they? About why how they found her?
No, I don't think they did.
So
if I was looking to hire someone and this is what I saw, I wouldn't hire them. So I'm sort of just wondering how she even got here in the first place.
Yeah, it's bizarre to me, because like I'm looking at these reviews, like, but then what I can't look at things because I have my screen obscured.
I'll put it in
the chat.
I'll put it in the chat. It's an old tweet, so I think you might remember it. It's I'll just put it in chat.
But I was going to say about the consulting thing, like, okay, one thing that me and Tom got really frustrated with about the reviews is everyone complaining about the incest thing. I don't know if you had a problem with that.
Oh yeah. Everybody.
I guess it's like, because I don't know. I'm just like, is there a way to do the incest? Well, but it's like in Game of Thrones, there's incest, and it's not that big of a deal. I guess it's more that like she was asexual, but the only like person she had a crush on was related to her. Like maybe that's why.
I don't know if she had a crush on him from the get-go though. Like
I'm confused about like which characters are who. Just from reading the reviews, it's not entirely clear like who's related, and so I'm not entirely sure. But it would be sort of creepy if like, oh, you don't feel sexual attraction, and then later it's like, oh, you feel sexual attraction, but it's to your cousin, and I'm just like, well, that's not like, I don't know. Again, I don't know which characters were supposed to be who, so I'm not sure.
I'm not saying that tweet on stream, but
everybody can just look at it. But like a lot of people writing the reviews had a problem with the incest, which I thought was like kind of silly. And because like I mean, and also when you and Tom were like writing it off, I also thought like your defense wasn't even like necessary, because it's like, well,
it was just so frequent. It was getting annoying. I thought it needed addressing.
It's like also they were complaining about the words like mommy and daddy.
Okay, that one I had some reservation about.
That's a little weird.
I don't know. I wouldn't,
because the thing is, mommy and daddy are a very modern thing. I want to say probably the last 100 years. In a medieval fantasy setting, not quite as common, I don't think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Or at least like you want to be like a big book, like a big like YA book. I mean, I'm not going to say a big girl book, but you know what I mean? Like you're trying to write for teenagers. And talk about like the intricate shit system that this castle has, but your characters are also calling their parents mommy and daddy like it's a kindergarten book, and so I don't.
So okay, me and Fatman have a bet going that in Volume 7, they are going to at some point go through a sewer system of some sort, a waste disposal. Fatman has bet that in Atlas that they're going to have to do an infiltration mission. That's Fatman's bet. My bet is that they'll have to exit the through the waste filtration system. Do you want to take a bet? It's $10 bet. $10 bet.
I would say, I guess, like, Mistral and Atlas are somewhat separated, and so I guess it would be like, oh.
Do you mean Mantle and Atlas?
Yeah, Mantle. I should say. Yeah, Mantle, because it's on the bottom. I don't know. If they're trying to do, like, some faunus stuff, I would guess that that's where an infiltration sewer system would come into play, but it would also be very funny if it was Weiss's house. That they were going through whatever waste disposal thing is set up in Weiss's house to get in, or something like that. Just because it's like, I don't know, like Jacques, Willow, and Whitley are the only people that are really in there, and so it's basically all of, like, Weiss has to literally deal with all of Jacques' shit.
Now it's going to be literal shit.
So yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Which one? You have to just it's an entrance.
I'll take the Schnee House sewer system one then. I guess.
Well, no, the idea is
entrance or exit.
That's the big thing. Is that, like,
are they entering through the sewers or are they leaving?
Unless you want to get specific. Unless you want to get super specific.
If you want to do a specific bet, I'll agree to that.
Because like the way I think the way this works is I'm putting up $10. If you win and you both say they go in through an entrance, then I have to split that between the two. But if you specify, I think more would go to you.
yeah. Like if you want to call like a specific scene.
I guess I'll say that they have to go in through that way.
Go in through a sewer?
Okay. Yeah, go in the house.
So you're just going with Fatman's bet, the same bet as Fatman.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's $10 up. Okay, I'm hoping to make a lot of money off of this. My bet is the way, because they apparently in the novel they had to escape through a sewer system. So I'm hoping that she'll try and repurpose that.
Like remap that onto.
Yeah.
It's also like a lot of people think that there's gonna be like a dance or something like in Weiss's house.
Okay, that would be awesome.
There's gonna be a horse faunus.
It's just BoJack Horseman. It's just BoJack Horseman.
Yeah. Henry is going to show back up riding like a noble steed, or he's going to have like secretly been a faunus the whole time.
Oh, that reminds me. Friendly reminder that centaurs have 2 rib cages.
Jesus Christ.
All right. Well, I think we've kind of delved that poop poop garden deep enough. So overall,
that was the 3 biggest thing in the reviews was the LGBT stuff, and then people kept talking about how much like the poop was just in the book, and also just that it wasn't written very well. But I guess that's.
I mean, prose doesn't really have an effect on screenwriting, but at the same time, when I read the excerpt from the Google buy store or whatever, I was not impressed with the dialogue. The dialogue was garbage. Like, I thought the prose was all right.
That's why they have Eddie.
Yeah. I thought the prose was all right.
Eddie wrote some of the funniest dialogue in... But Miles wrote some of the most, like, emotional dialogue in RWBY 10. And Carrie has written all of the good emotional scenes in RWBY, so...
We'll see. This either will somehow, like, be, like, a coalescence of bad writers into amazing writing, or it's going to be all the worst things into something terrible. I honestly, the more I watch this, the most disappointing thing about Volume 7 is that it somehow manages a middle ground. If it manages a middle ground, I'll be severely disappointed.
Yeah. I guess here's the other thing. I'm like, did they think that we wouldn't notice? Like, that nobody would look up the writer and see what she did, and that no one would notice that her reviews or anything like that? Because I don't know. I feel like with all
how did they not notice
that? Like, I guess, but like with all the controversies Rooster Teeth has had with Vic, and then the crunch, and like all these things that are like exposing like Glassdoor reviews was the whole sort of like the foundation for the crunch scandal, whatever to go off of, and so they didn't think that maybe the Goodreads reviews would copy something similar, because I don't think it got as big, obviously, because it's a whole different issue, but I'm like, did they think that we wouldn't know, or wouldn't look her up, or wouldn't like that this wouldn't cause like an issue, like if not
do you think
of like why
do you think it might be nepotism? Do you think that
like how?
Well, that's the thing, like the idea of maybe she knew someone at Rooster Teeth and got it, like said, hey, you guys, now that you have an LGBT couple in this show, maybe you might want someone to help you represent them. Even though, admittedly, they've already done a great job with Saffron and Tara, what's her name?
Yeah. They could have picked literally anyone.
Literally anyone else.
Anyone.
So part of
Bring me on, damn it!
Is bi, and like Lindsay is bi, and I'm like, you guys have enough gay people in the voice actors and in the animation staff. You should be okay. I hope.
Yeah, like, because like they say that she wrote her bi character as being like excessively promiscuous.
Like, I don't appreciate that.
Yeah, and her asexual character is being like rude and like
cold and standoffish. Yeah,
and it's just like, oh my god, like, it's like, okay, what's going to happen to Blake and Yang, because like they're both bi.
Yeah.
So it's like, are they gonna like get all horny all of a sudden?
Just like, all right, guys, we have this curtain in the back of the airship. We're just gonna put it. Just no one come back here. But I was gonna say,
we'll be right back if anyone wants to join us.
But I've been rather open about how I have my dissensions with LGBTQ culture, that kind of stuff. But even I recognize that if you're going to write this stuff, write it well. You can't just rely on stereotypes and all that stuff. And like, you have to have some accountability as an author for that. And so I think this backlash needs to be a little bit more visible than it is, because like we kind of mentioned it. It was popular for a day, and then it kind of fell off the face of the earth.
Some people wanted me to make a video about it, but I didn't really, like, I don't know. I didn't really know, just because I'm like, she hasn't done anything yet. Like, if things look real bad in Volume 7, we can sort of connect that maybe to her, and then it would be more fleshed out, but I was just sort of like, I don't know.
Oh, we have three alerts to get through. Blazin Domo says, doesn't come to memory, but what are y'all expecting from RWBY Volume 7? Examples, certain character deaths, plot holes, editing mistakes, etc. I'm expecting Winter to show up. I'm expecting her to somehow be inconsistent. I am expecting Jacques to be as fun as ever, because he's hilarious. Just that mustache, that mustache man. I'm expecting Ironwood to become a Trump allegory, and that's about it. Anyone else? What are you guys expecting?
I've given up on expecting. Expecting anything from RWBY is a recipe for disaster.
What about you,
because you don't even know like what elements they're going to like take as canon for the next one. Like I had like an idea. You know what? I'm gonna say I expect them to fix Beacon Tower in this volume.
Interesting. That's an interesting
I think
call.
that the communication system is going to come back online. I'll make that as like a thing that I think could reasonably.
Okay.
Surely they didn't have to build it this way. Like, they only built it this way to promote needing each other, like the communication towers. I don't think it was ever implied that it had to be this way, and that's just sort of it. You know what I mean? Like, they did it so, like, the kingdoms would have incentive to protect each other, but if that's gone, then they'll just...
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes down to it, though, it's just sort of like, but you could just, like, make alliances under the scene to rig the system to fix the towers to be how you need them to be. Like, when you get down to the actual politics of it, it makes no sense.
I'm pretty sure Watts will be there.
Yeah, Watts will probably show up, do something.
I don't know. I guess to connect this back to our book stuff, like there was something that me and Hunter talked about where they were trying to get Mercury's dad, and Mercury's dad was able to sort of suck up people's semblances and then give them back, presumably, unless he lied to Mercury about ever giving it back to him. But it's sort of like, if that is connected to Salem somehow, that's why maybe they wanted Marcus, or whatever his name is, and then they're trying to kidnap all these people and vacuum with strong semblances to suck them up and put them somewhere. I don't know, like whether it's Salem or like we had a theory that it could have been Watts and Atlas doing that Atlas wants to like suck up people's semblances and put them in the robot, sort of like Penny, but I don't know.
I'm telling you, it's all for one.
Oh my God.
I think we might get a Penny cameo this volume. That's actually one thing I think we might get, but like it's not going to be the way anyone expects it. It's not going to be like
Ironwood has that machine that can suck out the maiden's soul. I think they're going to try to suck Ozpin out of Oscar.
Ooh, that would be fun. I like that.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Ironwood's just like,
just like mentally rips Oscar apart, like separate.
Oh my God! And put Ozpin's mind in the Penny's body.
No.
Then we can get our lesbian Salem story. Yes, it all makes sense now. It's all coming up, lesbians.
Oh, no.
Okay, Blade Charge says, let's be honest, they probably think most fans are stupid or something like that. Blade Charge, I never attribute to malice what I can attribute to stupidity. I think that they missed something when they hired Calxiyn. Or there's something that we don't know about that she's working on that we could surprise us.
She secretly posted all those Glassdoor reviews.
Oh dear. I think so. Like technically, I think they would have hired her before the book came out and got reviewed, because I think the book came out May 2019, and if they started writing right after RWBY ended, then that would have been like February or March. But if I was hiring someone, I would still want to read at least their drafts of their work to make sure they were okay.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, I was reading those reviews on that was a lot of the inconsistency. There sounded like there's a lot of inconsistency in the writing in such a way that reminded me a lot of RWBY. So it came down to the unfortunate realization that it's very possible that Miles and Carrie like the way they write at current, which as a record, as a writer, you should never ever be content with the way you write. You should never technically actively like it. You should always hate your own work, even though you're the biggest fan of it. That way you're always improving. You're always looking for a way to make your writing better. And then Ash Barian said, plot twist, Crow gets into a drinking contest with Weiss's mom and ends up in a three-way love triangle with her in Winter.
I like that.
You know what? I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
I like that.
I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Like, Mom, you can't sleep with him. I like him. He's too old for you, dear. But Mom!
Yeah, like they're splitting the age difference. Like Winter's like 23, Crow is like 40 or 41 by now. And like how old is Weiss's mom? I hope Weiss's mom is like in it. And I hope, I don't know, I would be really happy if Weiss's mom was
she was
like the headcanon that I had about her.
She was mentioned once, never brought up again, even though that would be a pretty major thing to Weiss's character. Knowing more about her mom would be important.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she's getting drunk. Who isn't in this show? I mean the audience, of course. No. So yeah, that's our bets. That's our ideas for all these things. So overall, very nervous about Calxiyn. Very nervous. Yeah. I'm excited to see. Like, I want to see it as a train wreck. I want to see a train wreck, but I don't know that's going to happen. Do you two have anything else to mention? Anything interesting?
I don't think so.
Alrighty.
Remember to get hyped for the Volume 6 review.
Just need to get that Volume 5 Part 2 review.
Part 2. Stop asking about that. It's coming, I swear.
I would like to thank everyone so much for joining us, and especially give a great big thank you to Cal for joining us on this little adventure.
This was fun.
For those of you who
Made the last one.
don't normally check it out, please check out her content down below in the links, along with FatmanFalling's videos down there. Reminder that for that by donating to my or Fatman's Patreons for $1 or more, you can get access to the Team Frostbite Discord server, where me, Fatman, Tom, and a bunch of other people are regularly active. We might invite you to Cal, although I'm not really sure if it's your cup of tea.
I was there.
Oh, were you there?
Yeah, she was.
Is she in the Discord?
Yeah, for a long time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was there. But I left all my Discord servers because after RTX, I was like, I want social isolation. I don't want anyone to talk to me for the entire. Just because, oh god.
Perfectly respectable. Let me know.
Great.
Let me know whenever you want back in. I'll pop you a link if you ever do.
All right.
But we're regularly active, so if you want access to that, patron me or Fatman or Tom or Britt if you want. And a lovely shout out to every single one of my patrons who have supported me through the years on my channel. And I'm so glad you've joined. I want to thank everyone who donated.
Ducky, I said stop asking about it.
And thank you all so much for watching. Catch you all on the flip side.